everyone, have you ever found yourself standing at the edge of a decision knowing what you should do, yet feeling drawn towards something entirely different? Maybe it's the dessert after committing to healthier eating, the snooze button after vowing to wake early, or scrolling on your phone instead of working on that passion project. These are the moments of inner battle. And let me tell you, this self-control isn't about winning every single fight. It's about understanding the war within. The first step in mastering self-control is acknowledging the battleground. What drives us? What tempts us? Beneath every craving, there's a deeper need, be it comfort, validation, or escape. Understanding inner battles requires us to look deeply into the moments where we feel the most torn. These battles are not just about resisting temptations or saying no to the things we know aren't good for us. They're about grappling with the deeper forces at work within us. Often, when we struggle with self-control, it's not simply because we lack discipline or willpower. It's because there's a silent, underlying conflict between what we desire in the moment and what we value in the long term. Imagine standing in front of a decision that feels small: a sugary snack, a quick emotional outburst, or skipping a planned workout. On the surface, it seems like a simple choice, yes or no, but beneath that decision lies a complex interplay of emotions, needs, and beliefs. Why do we crave the sugar? Is it really about hunger, or are we seeking comfort from stress or loneliness? Why do we lash out instead of holding back? Is it anger? Or is it a response to feeling unseen or unheard? These are the questions we often avoid because they force us to confront truths about ourselves that may feel uncomfortable or even painful. Inner battles are, at their core, a reflection of our humanity. They remind us that we are not machines operating on logic alone. We are emotional beings shaped by our experiences, habits, and environment. And sometimes the impulses we're fighting are rooted in patterns we've developed over years, even decades. Recognizing this doesn't mean we're powerless. It means we need to approach these battles with a deeper understanding and a sense of curiosity. The truth is, self-control begins not when we try to overpower these impulses, but when we take the time to listen to them. What is this craving or reaction trying to tell us? What unmet need is driving it? By understanding the why behind our struggles, we gain clarity. And with clarity comes the ability to respond thoughtfully. This process isn't easy because it asks instead of reacting impulsively, to admit that we feel torn, conflicted, or even weak at times. But here's the thing: vulnerability isn't a flaw, it's a strength. It takes courage to sit with our inner turmoil and examine it with honesty and compassion. Most of us want to skip this step. We want a quick fix, a shortcut to self-control that doesn't involve digging into the messy, uncomfortable parts of ourselves. But that shortcut doesn't exist. The only way out is through. Understanding inner battles also requires us to recognize that they are deeply personal. The struggles I face might be very different from yours, but they are no less valid or significant. Comparing our battles to others often leads to frustration or shame. Why can't I get this under control when others seem to manage so easily? But what we don't see are the battles others are silently fighting. Everyone is carrying something, and each person's inner conflicts are shaped by their unique circumstances, experiences, and challenges. By approaching our inner battles with self-awareness and compassion, we not only learn to manage them, but also grow stronger through them. Each time we pause to reflect on what's truly happening within us, we gain insight. Each time we choose to act in alignment with our deeper values instead of giving in to fleeting desires, we build resilience. These moments add up, and over time, they transform the way we navigate our lives. So understanding inner battles isn't about eliminating them altogether. It's about reframing how we see them. They are not barriers to our growth, but opportunities to better understand ourselves and align with the person we aspire to be. The more we embrace this perspective, the more equipped we become to handle the battles that will inevitably come our way. And perhaps instead of fearing them, we can start to see them as part of the journey toward becoming our strongest, most authentic selves. It's okay to feel vulnerable here. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the doorway to transformation. When we think about self-control, vulnerability is rarely the first thing that comes to mind. In fact, most of us associate self-control with strength, discipline, and an almost unshakable willpower. But here's the paradox: true self-control is deeply tied to our ability to be vulnerable. It's not about suppressing our emotions or masking our struggles, it's about opening ourselves up to the reality of what we're experiencing and facing it with honesty and courage. Vulnerability in the context of self-control means acknowledging that we don't always have it all together. It's recognizing that there are moments when we feel weak, when our impulses seem to overpower our logic, and when we give in to choices that don't align with who we want to be. This admission isn't a failure, it's an act of bravery. It's easy to ignore these struggles or pretend they don't exist. What's hard is sitting with them, admitting them, and allowing ourselves to feel the discomfort they bring. Think about the times you've struggled with self-control. Maybe it was reaching for comfort food after a stressful day, procrastinating on something important, or letting frustration get the better of you in a tense conversation. In these moments, vulnerability is what allows us to pause and ask the harder questions: why am I feeling this way? What am I trying to avoid or soothe? What do I truly need right now? These questions require us to dig beneath the surface, and that's where vulnerability comes in. It asks us to confront feelings we'd rather avoid: fear, shame, guilt, or even loneliness. The world often tells us to toughen up, to push through without acknowledging the emotional weight of our struggles. But when we suppress our vulnerability, we also suppress our ability to grow. Pretending that everything is fine when it isn't only creates a disconnect between who we are and who we present to the world. Over time, this disconnect erodes our ability to navigate our inner battles with authenticity and clarity. Vulnerability, on the other hand, bridges that gap. It invites us to show up as we are, flaws and all, and to find strength in that honesty. One of the most significant ways vulnerability influences self-control is through the practice of self-compassion. When we acknowledge our struggles without judgment, we create space for understanding and growth. Imagine stumbling in your efforts to stick to a goal, whether it's a fitness routine, a financial plan, or an emotional commitment. If your first reaction is to berate yourself, you're more likely to feel defeated and give up altogether. But if you approach the situation with vulnerability, acknowledging that you're human, that setbacks are part of the process, you give yourself the grace to try again. Vulnerability also allows us to connect with others, which is a powerful tool in maintaining self-control. When we share our struggles, we realize we're not alone. Others face similar challenges, and their stories can inspire and motivate us. It's in these moments of connection that we build resilience, but sharing requires vulnerability. It means admitting that we don't have all the answers and that we need support. This isn't weakness, it's one of the strongest things we can do. Another critical aspect of vulnerability is that it helps us embrace imperfection. Self-control doesn't mean getting it right all the time. It means being willing to try, fail, and try again. Vulnerability reminds us that it's okay to stumble. It gives us permission to learn from our mistakes instead of letting them define us. Every time we allow ourselves to be vulnerable in the face of failure, we build a stronger foundation for future success. Ultimately, vulnerability isn't about exposing ourselves to harm or leaving ourselves unprotected. It's about being real with ourselves and others It's about admitting that the road to self-control isn't a straight path, but a journey full of twists, turns, and moments of uncertainty. By embracing vulnerability, we open ourselves up to growth, connection, and transformation. We move beyond the surface level of our struggles and tap into the deeper truths that drive lasting change. In the end, vulnerability isn't a barrier to self-control, it's the key to unlocking it. It's what allows us to face our inner battles with courage, to learn from our setbacks, and to rise stronger each time. It's not a sign of weakness, but a profound source of strength, one that empowers us to live with intention and authenticity. Next, let's talk about choices. Society often portrays self-control as some monumental force like climbing Everest every day. But the truth is, self-control is built in the small moments. It's choosing a glass of water over soda, taking 3 deep breaths before responding in anger, or setting a timer to focus on one task. Small wins build momentum. And every time you make a choice that aligns with your deeper values, you strengthen your inner resolve. When we think of self-control, it's easy to focus on the big, dramatic changes we believe are necessary to transform our lives. We set ambitious goals, envision sweeping lifestyle overhauls, and put enormous pressure on ourselves to succeed. But the truth is, self-control is rarely about these monumental efforts. It's about the small, seemingly insignificant choices we make every single day. These are the choices that over time shape the direction of our lives and define who we become. The power of small choices lies in their simplicity. They don't demand grand gestures or overwhelming sacrifices. Instead, they ask for presence, mindfulness, and intention. It's the decision to drink a glass of water instead of reaching for a soda. It's the choice to take a short walk rather than scroll endlessly on your phone. It's the act of setting your alarm 10 minutes earlier to start your day with purpose. None of these actions may seem life-changing in isolation. Consider how habits are formed. Habits are not created overnight, they are the result of repeated actions. A single choice made consciously sets the tone for the next choice, and then the next. This chain reaction is where the real power lies. When you make one small positive choice, it becomes easier to make another. The key is that these choices are manageable, they don't feel overwhelming or impossible. They're small enough to accomplish, but meaningful enough to create impact. Small choices also have a cumulative effect. Think of them like drops of water filling a jar. At first, the progress may seem slow, almost invisible, but with each drop, the jar fills a little more until one day it overflows. That's the power of consistency. Each small choice you make contributes to a larger goal, even if it doesn't feel significant in the moment. Over time, these choices become habits, and habits become a lifestyle. There's another reason small choices are so powerful they're less intimidating. When we set massive goals, we often feel paralyzed by their enormity. The idea of losing 50 pounds, running a marathon, or saving a large sum of money can feel overwhelming. But breaking those goals into smaller, actionable steps like choosing a healthier snack, jogging for 10 minutes, or setting aside a few dollars each week makes them more achievable. Small choices create a sense of progress and control, which fuels our motivation to keep going. Small choices also allow us to stay present. Too often we get caught up in the future, focusing on where we want to be rather than where we are. But self-control is about making the best decision in the moment, even if it feels minor. It's about asking, what can I do right now that aligns with my values and goals? By focusing on the present, we take the pressure off the future. We stop worrying about the end result and start investing in the process. It's important to acknowledge that small choices don't always come easily. In moments of stress, fatigue, or temptation, the easier option often feels more appealing. But that's where the true power of small choices lies. They remind us that even in those moments, we have agency. We may not be able to control every circumstance, but we can control our response. And each time we make a conscious choice, we reinforce our ability to do it again. Small choices are also forgiving. Unlike sweeping resolutions that demand perfection, small choices allow room for imperfection. If you miss one opportunity to make a positive choice, there's always another waiting. You don't have to wait for a new day, week, or year to start fresh. Every moment presents a chance to make a decision that moves you closer to your goals. This flexibility is what makes small choices sustainable. They're not tied to an all or nothing mentality. Over time, small choices create ripple effects that extend beyond ourselves. When we prioritize small acts of self-control, they influence other areas of our lives and even the people around us. For instance, choosing to eat a healthy meal may inspire a friend or family member to do the same. Deciding to be patient in a stressful situation can de-escalate conflict and create a more positive environment. These ripples, though subtle, have the potential to create significant change over time. Ultimately, the power of small choices is a reminder that progress doesn't have to be dramatic to be meaningful. It's the accumulation of these choices that transforms us not through willpower alone, but through intention, consistency, and patience. Each small choice is a declaration of who we want to be, and each one moves us closer to that vision. So the next time you face a seemingly insignificant decision, remember that it's not so small after all. It's a step forward, a building block, and a powerful act of self-control. And here's the part many of us forget: self-control isn't about perfection, it's about progress. When we stumble, and we will, it's easy to spiral into self-criticism. Why can't I just stick to it? Sound familiar? Instead, try this: treat yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a close friend. Self-compassion isn't indulgent, it's empowering. When it comes to self-control, many of us default to criticism as a way of motivating ourselves. We think that by being hard on ourselves, by pointing out our shortcomings and failures, we'll somehow push ourselves to do better next time. But this approach often backfires. Criticism, especially when it comes from within, doesn't fuel growth, it drains it. It creates a cycle of guilt, shame, and defeat, making it even harder to stay on track. What if instead we replace criticism with compassion? What if we treated ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we would offer a close friend? Compassion is often misunderstood as being soft or indulgent, but it's anything but that. Compassion is not about making excuses for poor choices or letting ourselves off the hook. Instead, it's about acknowledging our humanity and creating the emotional space to learn, grow, and move forward. When we approach self-control with compassion, we shift our focus from punishment to progress. We stop obsessing over what we did wrong and start asking how we can do better. Imagine you've had a day where everything seems to go wrong. You intended to eat healthy, but by the afternoon you found yourself reaching for a sugary snack. Later you skipped your workout because you felt too tired. By the end of the day, you're left with a sense of failure. In this moment, criticism might sound like, why can't I ever stick to anything? I'm so weak, I'll never get it right. These thoughts don't inspire change, they paralyze you. They make you feel small, incapable, and stuck. Now imagine the same scenario approached with compassion. Instead of berating yourself, you take a step back and say, it's okay. Today was tough, and I made choices that didn't align with my goals. But tomorrow is a new day, and I can try again. This shift in perspective doesn't ignore the choices you made, but it frames them as part of the journey rather than as proof of failure. Compassion allows you to forgive yourself and focus on what you can control moving forward. One of the most profound benefits of compassion is that it reduces the emotional weight of our mistakes. When we criticize ourselves, we add layers of guilt and shame to our actions, making it harder to recover. Compassion, on the other hand, lightens that load. It reminds us that making mistakes is a natural part of being human. No one is perfect, and expecting perfection only sets us up for disappointment. By accepting our imperfections, we create a healthier relationship with ourselves and with the process of self-improvement. Compassion also strengthens our resilience. When we're compassionate with ourselves, we're more likely to bounce back from setbacks. We understand that one misstep doesn't define us or our abilities. This mindset helps us stay committed to our goals even when the path gets rocky. It's like having a safety net. Compassion catches us when we fall and gives us the confidence to keep going. Criticism, on the other hand, often leads to a cycle of self-sabotage. When we're harsh with ourselves, we create a mindset of all or nothing. If we slip up once, we feel as though we've ruined everything, so we might as well give up entirely. Compassion breaks this cycle by reminding us that progress isn't linear. It's okay to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. What matters is that we keep moving. Another important aspect of compassion is that it fosters self-awareness. When we criticize ourselves, we're often reacting emotionally rather than thoughtfully. We focus on the surface level of our actions without digging deeper into the reasons behind them. Compassion encourages us to pause and reflect. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" we ask, "What led me to make that choice? What can I learn from this experience?" This shift in perspective helps us identify patterns, triggers, and areas for growth. It turns mistakes into opportunities for self-discovery. Compassion also improves our relationships with others. When we're critical of ourselves, that negativity often spills over into how we interact with those around us. We become impatient, judgmental, or withdrawn. But when we treat ourselves with kindness, we're better equipped to extend that kindness to others. We become more understanding, empathetic, and supportive, which strengthens our connections and creates a positive ripple effect. It's important to note that cultivating compassion takes practice. For many of us, criticism is deeply ingrained. It's what we've been taught, either explicitly or implicitly, and changing that narrative isn't easy. But like any skill, compassion can be developed over time. It starts with small shifts, catching yourself in moments of self-criticism and consciously choosing a kinder response. It's about being patient with yourself as you unlearn old habits and embrace new ones. Ultimately, compassion is a form of self-respect. It's about honoring your journey, recognizing your efforts, and believing in your ability to grow. It's about treating yourself as someone worthy of love and understanding, even when you fall short of your expectations. And it's through this compassion that we find the strength to keep striving for self-control, not because we have to, but because we want to. By replacing criticism with compassion, we create an environment where self-control can thrive. We learn to navigate our challenges with grace, to recover from setbacks with resilience, and to celebrate our progress no matter how small. Compassion isn't just a tool for self-control, it's the foundation for a healthier, more fulfilling relationship with ourselves and the world around us. Finally, self-control doesn't have to be a solo journey. We're wired for connection. Find those people who will cheer you on, hold you accountable, and remind you of your strength on days when you forget. Self-control is often seen as a solitary pursuit, a battle fought alone against our impulses and desires. We tell ourselves that we just need to be stronger, more disciplined, more independent. But the truth is, self-control doesn't thrive in isolation. It is deeply tied to our relationships and our sense of connection with others. When we surround ourselves with people who support us, challenge us, and hold us accountable, we unlock a powerful resource for maintaining self-control and navigating our inner battles. Connection is at the heart of what it means to be human. We are social creatures, hardwired to seek belonging and understanding. Yet when we struggle with self-control, we often withdraw. We hide our struggles out of fear of judgment or shame, convincing ourselves that we're the only ones facing these challenges. This isolation not only makes the struggle harder, but also deprives us of the support that could make all the difference. Imagine trying to stay consistent with a goal entirely on your own, whether it's adopting healthier habits, saving money, or managing your emotions. The journey can feel overwhelming. There are moments of doubt, fatigue, and temptation moments when giving up feels easier than pushing forward. Now imagine the same journey with someone by your side, a friend, family member, mentor, or even a community of like-minded individuals. Their presence offers encouragement, perspective, and accountability. They remind you why you started, celebrate your progress, and help you get back on track when you stumble. This is the power of connection. Accountability is an extension of that connection. It's not about being policed or judged, it's about having someone who cares enough to check in, ask questions, and hold you to the standards you've set for yourself. Accountability creates a sense of shared responsibility. When you share your goals and struggles with someone else, you're not just committing to yourself, you're also committing to them. This added layer of commitment can be a powerful motivator, especially in moments of weakness. There's something profoundly motivating about knowing someone else is invested in your success. When you feel like quitting, the thought of disappointing a trusted partner or group can give you the push you need to keep going. It's not about guilt or obligation, it's about respect for their support and for the relationship you've built. This dynamic turns self-control from a solitary effort into a collaborative journey. Connection and accountability also bring perspective. When we struggle with self-control, it's easy to get caught up in our own narrative of failure. We magnify our mistakes, dwell on our shortcomings, and convince ourselves that we're not capable of change. But when we open up to others, we gain a fresh perspective. They remind us that setbacks are normal, that progress is rarely linear, and that our worth is not defined by our struggles. Their perspective helps us see the bigger picture and approach our challenges with greater compassion and resilience. Another critical aspect of connection is the opportunity to learn from others. No matter how unique our struggles may feel, there's a good chance someone else has faced something similar. By sharing our experiences, we not only gain valuable insights and strategies, but also create a sense of solidarity. Knowing that others have navigated similar challenges and succeeded can be incredibly empowering. It reminds us that we're not alone and that change is possible. Accountability doesn't have to be formal or rigid. It can take many forms, from a weekly check-in with a friend to participating in a group with shared goals. What matters is that the relationship is built on trust and mutual respect. True accountability is about support, not judgment. It's about creating a safe space where you can be honest about your struggles without fear of criticism. Connection and accountability also help us stay grounded in our values. When we're accountable to others, we're more likely to reflect on the reasons behind our goals. Why is this important to me? What impact will this have on my life and the lives of those around me? These questions deepen our commitment and strengthen our resolve. Finally, connection provides a sense of belonging that can be deeply comforting during difficult times. When we're struggling with self-control, it's easy to feel isolated and disconnected, as though our challenges set us apart from others. But when we share our journey with others, we realize that struggle is a universal experience. We see that everyone has their battles, and this shared humanity fosters empathy and understanding. In the end, self-control isn't just about willpower or discipline. It's about creating an environment where we can thrive. And that environment is enriched by the people we surround ourselves with. Connection and accountability remind us that we don't have to do it all alone. They show us that self-control isn't just a personal endeavor, it's a shared experience that draws strength from the bonds we create with others. By leaning into connection and seeking accountability, we empower ourselves to navigate our inner battles with greater confidence and resilience. We become part of something bigger than ourselves, and that collective strength carries us forward, even in the face of challenges. The secret to self-control isn't willpower alone. It's understanding yourself deeply, making mindful choices, embracing imperfections, and leaning into connection. The battles within will never completely vanish, but with awareness, compassion, and community, they become less daunting. And that, my friends, is the real power of self-control. As we bring this journey to a close, it's important to remember that the path to self-control isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about understanding that our inner battles are part of what makes us human, and that each struggle, no matter how small, is an opportunity for growth. Self-control is not a single choice or a one-time decision. It's the sum of the small, intentional actions we take every day. It's rooted in vulnerability, where we find the courage to face our fears and be honest with ourselves. It flourishes when we replace self-criticism with compassion, creating space for reflection, forgiveness, and resilience. And it's sustained through connection and accountability as we draw strength from the support of others and hold ourselves true to the values we share. True self-control is about living with intention, aligning our actions with our goals, and finding strength in the moments when we feel most tested. It's not about suppressing who we are, but embracing every part of our journey, our strengths, our struggles, and everything in between. Remember, the power to change doesn't come from grand gestures or impossible expectations. It comes from the small choices we make, the kindness we show ourselves, and the connections we nurture along the way. So as you move forward, give yourself permission to stumble, to learn, and to grow. Celebrate the small wins, lean on your support system, and trust in your ability to keep moving one step at a time. Because self-control isn't just about winning battles, it's about finding peace within yourself and living a life that reflects the person you aspire to be. The secret to self-control isn't hidden in perfection or isolation, it's found in the courage to show up, the grace to try again, and the power to build a life that's authentic, meaningful, and deeply your own. Thank you.